Hey, gang. I bet you didn't think you would ever watch me play this again. But there's something that I had to show you. Because something happened to me the other day that, just drove me goddamn wild. So, I've done the impossible. I have liberated every other exile except for the ones that you see in my party. You've gained the summit of Mount Elodiel for the 7th time. Very few stars remain above to light your way as you await the commencement of the final liberation rite. The lone minstrel finds you clutching the Book of Rites, seeking there perhaps some bit of wisdom that has eluded you thus far. Reader, we may not have a chance to speak again after this. I may have to go. I wish to say that I'm grateful for having made your acquaintance, and I shall remember you with fondness. I wish you well this night and always. Go forth with glory. Yeah, manly handshake. Master Reader, it has been this night's greatest honor to have served with you. Let this be our most glorious stand yet. It's strange for me to say, given the circumstances of our meeting, Reader, but it has truly been a pleasure. Onward. Now let us achieve our plan. Well, Reader, darling, what do you say we give those old scribes a real show to remember then, shall we? Whew. Begging your pardon, but my time has come. We shall see each other soon. So yeah, these are my 3. Let's not fuck this up, shall we? Actually, fucking it up is kind of what I intend. Goodbye, Tattered Mantle. Go away.
Time Singer.
Fear I shall have to invoke Time Singer Harn because we need 9 Titan stars active. Oh! Here is screaming. Now, what happened the last time I did this is that I lost, but very nearly won.
For one last time, upon the fall of Solium, dear reader, hear me for one last time. For soon, the few remaining stars shall fade away, leaving you stranded there for your remaining days in that forsaken land where you deserve to be. The rabble that you roused here in the Commonwealth shall be put down. The exiles whom you liberated all shall fall in line. But first, let us get on with this last liberation rite. You face none other than yourselves. Each so unlike the glorious Nightwings of yore. 'Tis a shame that one of you shall soon be free, for you deserve each other.
Oh my. Yo, Orlek, what's going on? Big Daddy Orlek is here. He's coming to take my lunch money. He ain't taking no for an answer. That level 40 Ashen Coal. Ugh. Let's once more. Yay! Even Sir Gilman's like, oh god, what have I got myself into? Yes, for there is no turning back. You know what happens if I say no? The pressure is too great. It's too much. Do not give in, reader. We stand with you. However you shall go about it, whatever the outcome, we will understand. And so, you need not hesitate, and you need not explain. So please, trust in yourself. For all the rest of us, we trust you. Thanks, Volfred. There's no going back.
One final opportunity for salvation.
Hey, Orlek.
Too bad for the rest of you.
What up? Let's see how long he's been exiled. Okay, that's an important piece of information for a theory that I'm putting together. Years exiled, 18, which means that he had been exiled for 3 years when he was tossed off the Mount Elodiel. Right? That makes sense, right? Is it 10 years or 15 years ago that he was cheated? I always get those numbers mixed up. I'll double check. Still, that's an important piece of information. We'll need that for later. Brazen Banner, Long Stride, Crushing Heel, Celestial Spike. Yeah, so if Aurelek tosses the orb, don't try to catch it. Overwhelming, Ardent, Swift, Shining. Karaf, who possesses the Moon Crest. Quick Fling, Snapcast, Dark Vigor, and Heightened Reflexes. This boy is fast. And Kisa, also fast. Still, Aurelek is the second quickest among them, which is just like a fucking crime. Right, Lord Gandroth. Safe return, elusive nature, and Titan's Rage. So he's gonna explode. Alright. And now we're gonna cheat. Drink. Let's see how high it goes up. 9.1 to 11.6. Drink. And Volfred shall be the anointed among us. Long have I dreamt that I might someday see this plan of ours come to fruition. I promise you that I shall make the most of it if we are to fail.
Who shall strive for him?
Then. Gilman, you'll be our last hope. 4.4 seconds. 3.6 seconds! And Orre's scale. Just because jumping 60% farther than usual means that he can jump so far. Boink. And quickness, 6.1 meters per second. I may as well give her the fortified sun serum then. 9.8 meters per second. Wouldn't have wanted to sit this one out. That's for sure, Rita darling. You don't have a choice. Those are to be my adversaries then. And who is it, I wonder, who asserts his will over that group? Hey, it's me. It's your boy, the Breeder. We have one night left to make good on this. Don't pick up the orb.
The final chance at liberation for the age.
I don't think I can. Oh god. Nice. Shit. Fuck. Numbing Gust, protect me. Or it is my only shield. Volfred can't do anything there. Woo! Ow. Don't mind me. Going for it. Damn. What are you gonna do, man? Oh shit. I'm gonna die. That's what I'm gonna do. Damn. Fuck. Ugh. Damn. Yep. Then he and Volfred talk. And Volfred is like, I'm very sorry, but you gotta let me win. I'm putting the plan. I'm getting the band back together. I'm putting this plan into motion. Boing. It's only 17 damage, but holy fuck, what are you gonna do to stop him? So, here's a funny thing. Aurelek's Rage is mighty, we all get banished. The Numbing Gust comes into play, but before the cutscene is over, Gilman is already back! And he's already dead. Later. Come get me, Aurelek. Oh my god, what? What do you want me to do about that? Oh. Damn, he's so fast. What do I do about this fast boy? I'm just gonna bump into him. Give him a little love tap. Oh no. That is the last thing we wanted to happen. I'm just gonna bump into everybody. What are you gonna do about it? No! Oh shit, that's bad. Avenging aid. Oh no, goodbye. Later, man. Oh, spiked. You set me. Oh, fuck. He's just so fast. Oh, shit. They all are, really. Ugh, fuck. Later, man. Gilman. Oh! And he's star smashed. What? How? Who the what now? Caught. Oh, I ran out of stamina. Oh, later, man. Just gonna get rid of, no, get rid of the board. No, just die. Everybody die. That's pretty funny. Oh, shit. Fuck. Holy shit. Damn.
How he has changed, that Orlek. Grown old and bitter lo these many years.
Whew. Yeep. Got him.
Glory.
Still, we haven't done a lot of damage. Makes it sound like laughter, but says nothing as he prepares one last assault against your side. Poof. Damn. I was gonna do a thingy.
A bit of a blunder.
Hush you. Huh. Can I play enough of, like, dumb guard over here? Got him. What?
Be gone, friend.
What was that absurdity? Oh, that did not work out. That also did not work out. The sapling is too big. This boy is too large. Whoo. Whoo. Oh, I forget. Orlek can jump like all the way across the goddamn map. No, 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 no. I was about to say, I gotta jump in and then I can jump out. Oh, shit. That's no bueno. Oh, Lord. Shit. Oh my god. He destroyed the Guardian sapling. Even with the numbing gust. It's over. Alright. Now, I don't know if I did well enough. Because the last time I did this, I made him sweat. But let's see what Orlek does. Consider this a test.
Thus ends the liberation rite.
So, in all previous times in which Orlek has succeeded, he has told me to eat 1,000,000 dicks and that he is going up the shimmer pool and he's gone. For someone who has triumphed, you sense no pride in him. You posed a reasonable threat. Now farewell. You look upon Orlek for what you expect shall be the last time. Any moment now, the shimmer pool shall engulf him. Any moment now, he shall regain his freedom and return unto a commonwealth he has not seen in half a lifetime. Any moment now, the cycle of the rite shall end, until at least the dawn of a new age. Any moment now.
And thus the scribes have chosen. And thus the scribes have chosen. And thus the scribes have chosen. Oh. Nightwings. Reader. What have you done?
Nothing happens. Orlek tenses up. Each prior time upon the fall of Solium, oh crap. But now all is still. The light of the stars above has all but died. You sense a growing fear that it is already too late, that the shimmer pool shall not reveal itself again. Orlek laughs. The 8 scribes saved their greatest treachery for last. Then something else catches his notice. Wait. A sudden rush of starlight cascades through the stillness of the summit. The shimmer pool has appeared again, different somehow, but now open. Orlek looks upon it, but it does not engulf him, at least not yet. It seems I was mistaken then. The 8 scribes, this is not their greatest treachery. It is their greatest jest. The shimmer pool is flung wide open. It seems that all are worthy now of freedom. Just then Volfred approaches. What are you saying, Orlek? That we can all return? Volfred moves closer to the shimmer pool, but... Halt, Volfred. It is a warning. Volfred recognizes it as such and heeds it. The shimmer pool has lost most of its strength. You step inside and you shall surely perish in the current. Of that I can assure you. Orlek shakes his head. Then I am cheated once again. No, the shimmer pool is revealed, and one of you may still return as planned. But Orlek, as the victor of this liberation rite, that ends an age, the choice of who is to return is no longer decided, but is yours. Having to choose from those anointed ere the last light of the stars is extinguished, and the rites draw to an end, this is the final trial of the scribes. The final trial of the scribes. All that remains then is for me to choose myself, is that what you're saying? If that is to be your choice, then yes. Why? How is this even a choice? What reason would I have to... Orlek, make your decision quickly, lest it shall be forfeit. I do not know for how much longer the light of the stars shall offer you this gift. Why do I hesitate? Cool, I got it. To have come this far. To have regained what ought have already been mine all those years ago. Why now would I hesitate to claim my right? The final trial of the scribes. Orlek is lost in thought. Let him work it out. You are loath to tamper with the thoughts of one in the midst of a crucial decision. Reach out to him. Perhaps you can help Orlek work through the troubles weighing down on him. Manipulate him. A mind preoccupied becomes highly susceptible to unconscious influence. Nah, I'm a good dude. Hey, Orlek, what's up, man? I got your back, dude. As Orlek struggles with the implications of the choice he has to make, you reach out to him, maintaining calm. Soon he becomes aware. You, shadow of the false Nightwings, I sense you lurking at the edges of my thoughts. Begone. You venture to a place more desolate than the one to which you have been exiled, but you remain with him. Soon your thoughts are known to him as well. You, all this time, you stood by them, clinging all the while to your faith that you yourself could still be free. How foolish. And Volfred, the remorse which he expressed to me then, it was genuine. This plan of yours back when we stood together in the rites, it was our plan. Orlek and Volfred's dream to one day see the Commonwealth turn to a surer course. We shall stand together, shoulder to shoulder, as the scribes themselves once stood, Volfred said to Orlek. Then Orlek seems to pull back from you and returns to his senses. My choice is made. Then declare it. You there, shadow of the false Nightwings. I would have you be gone from here, and go back to the Commonwealth. Go, return, and realize the plan. The Gate Guardian studies him, betraying no emotion. The freedom I have sought. My desire for it is unlikely to be sated in the Commonwealth, which cast all of us here. The Gate Guardian turns to you as well. Reader of the Nightwings, do you accept the burden, the outcome of this choice? You look toward Volfred, who regards you with such understanding that leaves no room for doubt. Your choice, reader? Insist that Orlek go free instead. Ask Volfred to be free. Humbly accept. What is being offered to you is far too precious a thing to be declined. You cannot help but accept. You have chosen to be free yourself. Then it is done. Volfred looks to you this one last time, his heart filled with unspoken understanding. You turn then to Orlick for an instant, but another instant later, he is gone. He and everyone, all you feel is the coldness of the rush of water coursing all around you. Orlick gave his freedom so that you may yet have yours. What? Like,
Godspeed, reader.
Tizo giving the choice?
By the scribes.
That was pretty swole.
Stars
That was
remain
pretty strong. But
aloft.
Orlick? Bitter,
It is finished.
terrible, angry, haughty Orlick
Become of it.
being humbled and saying,
Become of us.
no, I give it to you.
Nightwings. The opportunity to gain your freedom from the downside. Was it not enough?
Access is not enough. And I should mention, I forgot to let Siandra out of the Beyonder Crystal. Whoopsie daisy. So, I have freed every other exile from the Liberation Rite. So that night, an exiled reader returned to the Commonwealth, and he was to be the last. The stars had faded, and the cycle of the rites had run its course. He found the Commonwealth in great upheaval. Spurred by the efforts of 6 liberated exiles, Volfred Sandalwood's revolutionary plan had incited the masses. These exiles in the starless sky portended the return of the scribes. The people surged into the streets, shoulder to shoulder. Led by the 6 exiles, their voice shook the heavens. The leadership of the Commonwealth panicked. No blood was shed that night, and by dawn it was over. The leaders of the Commonwealth had cast themselves back into exile, or joined in this new cause. Thus, in its 838th year, the Commonwealth had fallen. The new Saurian Union declared its sovereignty in the next year. Among the changes its elected leaders ushered in, they vowed never to cast their people into exile, and they abolished the old Commonwealth decree forbidding literacy. Today, we still remember all of this, and we remember the exiles of the downside whose deeds led to the dawning of our age, whether they returned or not. Here we are at a familiar site. Now, if you deny Orlick his freedom at the end of the final liberation rite, he kills himself. He hurls himself from Mount Elodial because he has nothing to live for. But if he gives you freedom instead, after the Shimmer Pool closed for what would be the last time, Orlick looked around him in the flickering light of the Nightwing's still burning pyre. He then turned towards the fall of Solium and looked up towards the black, starless sky. After standing thus for some time, he averted his gaze and walked away without a word. Orlick had relinquished his freedom of his own free will. Perhaps, in realizing this, he saw no reason to remain there on the sacred mountain. For many moons he wandered the downside alone. Eventually, however, he would reunite with the exiles he stood with as the true Nightwings, for they each cared deeply for him. The one he had called the Shadow of the False Nightwings was someone whom he thought about at times. He wondered if this reader had had influence over the Commonwealth's fall. News must have reached him eventually about the outcome of Volfred Sandalwood's plan. One day, he appeared before his former companion. While they kept private the details of the conversation that took place, it must have been enough to rebuild the bonds of friendship between the two. They were often seen together after that. Still, in the Saurian Union, no one remembered the former chief physician who had fallen into exile decades prior. No one knew just how close he came to altering the outcome of final liberation rite, and thus perhaps to altering the course of history. Today, however, this is not the case. Accounts from other exiles of the downside have ensured that Orlick's place in the events that shaped our world are known, and shall be known forever. Thanks, Orlick. I liberated Bertrude! Hey, Bertrude. After returning to the Commonwealth, the crow known as Big Bertrude promptly returned to the wet climate of her ancestral home in the southern bogs. There, for a time, it appeared that she had distanced herself from any involvement with society or with the plan of which she was a part. We know now that she worked diligently toward the goals outlined by Sandalwood, yet well outside the notice of even those who watched her movements very closely. For example, the printed notices spread throughout the streets about the night of Scribe's return, all her doing. Yet no one knew until she owned up to it much later. Subsequently, she returned her focus to the sort of work which had preoccupied her for many, many years, both in the downside and in the Commonwealth. And she remotely managed aspects of her business on the downside, ensuring that the exiles who remained there still could get hold of certain valuables. Much of her effort was doubtless due to the influence of Wilfred Sandalwood, someone whom she had admired now for decades. Though they were very far apart now, she sought out news as to his whereabouts and often cast enchantments in his favor. Bertrude, most of all, kept busy with her work. The inks and notices which she still brewed and manufactured once were grounds enough for quick sentence into exile. Back then, the one thing worse than spreading lies about the Commonwealth through speech was doing so in print. Once exposed, such writings all were burned. Now the written point of view is to be honored rather than to be feared, and Big Bertrude remains one of our time's most notable purveyors of the craft. It is quite likely something you have read in recent times would have been put to parchment by her handiwork. More good news. I freed Jodariel. After her liberation, Jodariel soon became an icon of the movement that led to the collapse of the Commonwealth and the rise of the Saurian Union. Her horns and stern countenance inspired the people to believe that she was in fact Solium Mur reborn. She became a great, if reluctant, leader. In the uncertain times that followed, Jodariel's seasoned expertise often came into play both in matters of security and of state. For instance, she conscripted and trained a team of volunteers in public safety. The community did not know what to make of such a cordial bunch at first, but soon came to value their service. They have stood for the people ever since, and we celebrate their founding day each year. She remained close with Hedwyn all through this experience, and they supported each other through their struggle many, many times. She kept an eye on Jay, who nonetheless demonstrated a surprising knack to get by on her own, though Jodariel was always willing to provide assistance, just in case. She continued training on her own, a regimen that grew stricter with each passing year. There were those who sought to train with her, and sometimes she obliged. There remained one other constant in her life. She would always remember her days among the Nightwings, and with fondness, for the most part. Aww. Let's hear about what happens to Udmilda should she fail. Returned to Flagging Hands, where she sealed herself within the Pit of Melith. There, even her fellow exiles of the Withdrawn allegedly grew unnerved after a time and left her to her vile work. Sometime later, the Pit of Melith erupted in flames. So intense was the conflagration that it could be seen all the way from Jamura Valley. Arson was suspected, though the cause was never verified, and many bog dwellers in the region were forced to flee. A tempest blowing from north finally quenched the flames. When at last the ashes settled and the grounds had cooled, the site of the fire was scarred beyond recognition. No trace of the witch Udmilda could be found. As for the contents of the Pit of Melith, which notably included a profane object thought to be the remains of Islak, all of it was gone as well. Back in the Saurian Union, Udmilda's repeated threats of the return of Islak were thoroughly investigated, and no credence of her claims were ever found. Poor Almer and poor Dalbert. Right, I should mention, my theory involves Almer, and I know now, having checked out their biography, which I didn't get to last time, Almer has been in exile for 5 years, and we don't know exactly how old he is, but he's on the younger side. So, that's just something that we need to keep in mind. As the cycle of the rites drew to a close, it grew evident that a chance of freedom from the downside had forever slipped from Dalbert and Almer Oldheart's grasp. Thus, they and the exiles of the Fate returned to Jamura Valley. There they struggled to get by, as the exiles of the downside tend to do. Sometime after the rites had ended, the Oldhearts at last heard the news that the Commonwealth had fallen. This was well after the fact, of course, but it brought old Dalbert great joy. Despite his forthright manner, he had no love for the nation that cast him down along with his son. Dalbert Oldheart passed peacefully in his sleep before the next new moon. I should mention, Dalbert's crime was holding a festival in honor of the Curs, and a fateful victory over the armies of Solium Mur some several hundred years ago. And when they went to go toss him in jail, Almer was like, "No, you're not tossing my dad in jail." So Almer is an orphan, and he was adopted by Dalbert. And so they cast Almer into exile because he fought with the cops that tried to arrest his dad. His crime is resisting arrest, and his motive is filial piety. Like, what kind of world? In his final days, he implored his son to undertake a pilgrimage to the scribes themselves. Almer never shared his father's view of the scribes, but respected his father's wishes. And so after a period of mourning, Albert began a new journey. Not a day went by that Almer Oldheart did not think about his father and give thanks to him, and speak to him at morning and at night. Would that the stars yet shone, for surely Dalberts would be there among them, smiling down at his son and watching over him and his kin. So, yep, if he and Jay are not in the same area, they do not hook up. Sorry. After his liberation, Hedwyn was instrumental in the events leading to the fall of the Commonwealth, and was vital to the outcome of the plan. The peaceful outcome of the scribes' return was attributed to several key factors. One of them was the underlying ambition of the plan itself. Another was Hedwyn's visibility among the people in the streets. Identified to be a liberated exile, he was believed to be Golgothian reborn. Yeah. More importantly, however, was that one of the winged harps of the High Wing remnants accompanied him. She was later identified as Vikani Shang. Their bond was symbolic of what was at stake that night, and proved vital to the peace that followed. In all his days as a leader in the Saurian Union, Hedwyn oft confided in his friend Jodariel. Despite her intense manner, there was no one whom he trusted more in times when circumspection was required. Hedwyn would often think back about the vow he made at the beginning of his quest for freedom. Although he cherished all the friendships he made, he had pledged to Jodariel, Rookie Greentail, and the Reader of the Nightwings that they might all be free again together. His promise had come to pass, though he always knew that this was not his own doing. He was always deeply grateful to the other three, his closest friends. While the others stood with the Nightwings, were not able to remain in contact thus, Hedwyn thought of each of them often, and so in turn did they think often of him. Yeah. Lendl. After the final liberation rite, Lendl refused to believe that the rites had ended. He would sit through night after consecutive night, staring into the blackness of the sky, awaiting any sign that he might gain another chance at freedom. No such sign ever came. His fellow accusers started to express concern for him. Survival had become their top priority once liberty had slipped from their grasp. But Lendl dismissed them as weak fools. He insisted forcefully that any evening now, the stars would shine for him again and mark the way toward his inevitable freedom. He was, of course, mistaken. The others in his triumvirate were left with little choice but to abandon him. After that, the exile known as Lendl the Liar was never seen again. However, there have since been sightings of a bedraggled demon who wanders the downside and bears Lendl's cruel countenance, suggesting he yet lives. We know Barker's story, Tamitha and Pamitha's story. We know Sir Deluge's story. He runs and hides, deals with Sir Gilman, and has a bunch of babies with Lady Seagrass. So if you don't free Sandra, the story is the same, except there's no interlude with her. Oh yeah, I liberated Tizo. The imp called Tizo was the first of his kind to achieve liberty through the rites. While he was not the only imp trained in the ways of the scribes, imps are native to the downside and thus care not for traveling abroad. This made them useful to triumvirates. Yet Tizo had a different calling, and the Nightwings believed that he too could play a key part in Volfred Sandalwood's plan. During the night of Scribe's return, he stood out to the populace as something of a miracle. They had only heard of downside imps before, from legends of Haub the Swallow. Afterwards, he became something of an icon, representing both the fall of the Commonwealth and the beginning of a new era. He would visit his friend Jay at every opportunity. She was among the few who could consistently interpret what he meant, and they were always close since the first day met. Volfred Sandalwood would sometimes send him little gifts, all the way from the downside. Despite the insurmountable distance between them, their friendship proved more than resilient. He often chirped about the Reader of the Nightwings, with whom he had built quite a rapport. The Reader understood him perhaps better than anyone, and Tizo would often express wistful gratitude for all the time in conducting the rites alongside the Nightwings, who had made such sacrifices for him. Other than that, Tizo was diligent about his role as something of a living artifact, and helped interpret for messenger imps that relayed news to and from the downside. Despite having gained significant celebrity, he never let it go to his head, although he did take full advantage of his access to the Saurian Union's fishing industry. Yo, Gilman, what up? Alas, he'll take to the hills and fight his fear of heights. Manly. Oh, you know what? Actually, is there ever a thing where he, no, he has no dealings with Volfred. He has no dealings with anyone. Hey, Tamitha. What's up? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Hey, Barker. Ignorious. But what of Jay on the night of Scribe's return? Jay the Zealous. On her return, she was so well treated. Even she could not have expected the impact she would have on the events to follow. Despite not fitting the image of any of the 8 scribes, Jay nonetheless stood out alongside the others amid the teeming masses on the night of Scribe's return. She spoke of the scribes with such conviction and sincerity that the crowd was very moved. After the fall of the Commonwealth, there was a renewed interest in the legend of the 8 scribes and many new interpretations of their histories and teachings. Jay found herself at the center of all this. Her way of speaking continued to compel a growing audience. She swayed more people from their astralist beliefs. Soon, the 8th word, which had lost favor with the people during the reign of the Commonwealth, sought her out and asked her formally to join, and she did right away. Among her friends, she always remained close with Tizo, who more so than anyone could always make her laugh. She cited her relationship with her Jodariel as the single most important in her life. Jodariel would always provide for her a circumspect perspective and the wisdom of experience. Whenever she felt genuine doubt, which was not very often, she sought out the reader of the Nightwings. If there was anyone whom she trusted as much as the scribes, it was him. Jay always was devoted to her faith, but more so to her friends. Many people in the Saurian Union cited that her gentle manner and unwavering conviction helped them brave the changing times with courage and grace. I wonder what happens if you restore the 8 scribe-looking people. So you would have to return... Oh, never mind. I don't think... No, there are only 7 liberation rights, so that's simply not possible. Sorry. Can't happen. Hey, Falconron. Oh my. Rookie. It was everything he could have hoped for, and soon he was well off, surrounded by luxury, and choosing between various exciting opportunities. The spitting image of Jamura Manymane himself. Sadly, I forgot to bring any of Greentail's friends back. Oops, no Pamitha, no Gilman? What's he got to do? Oh boy. She found it the sublime beauty, and in the starless night she still could see just fine. She said such travels tended to be a reminder of when she was younger and could fly unfettered. Poor Pamitha. I'm sorry, I took all of her friends away. Oops. But what became of Volfred down below? Fortunately, most of those contingencies did not prove necessary. There was only so much you could do from the downside. Right, the periodical. Good, okay, I'm glad that still happens. He enjoyed exchanging letters with the reader of the Nightwings, who kept him well abreast of how their other comrades in the fledgling nation fared. It is said at some point he made amends with his old one-time friend Orlek, with whom he had clashed during their days as exiles. After that, they seldom traveled separately. Nice. It is said that he remained steadfast about 2 things. The first was that the cause itself ought to remain in focus. The freedom that the people had achieved, it was a gift to be cherished, a set of values that needed to be nurtured. The second point he made was that he himself had little to do with the outcome. One day, to commemorate his birthday, the people of the Saurian Union unveiled a monument depicting him and the Nightwings as imagined in their prime. While Sandalwood did not learn of it until much later, it is said he was moved to tears then by the gesture. It has since ensured that those of us with memories more fallible than that of Sandalwood likewise remember the achievements of his fellow former exiles and our cause. There is one more account which warrants mention. The Nightwings conducted the rites under the guidance of a reader. Little is known of him. However, some accounts of him begin to paint a picture. We know he was of common birth, weak-framed, though raised with a penchant for learning. The journey to the downside left him close to death. It was then that the Nightwings found him. They brought him from the brink, and he showed them the path. He pressed onward with the others. He did not know how far their path would lead. Thus did the cycle of the rites commence its final turns. When the final rite arrived, the reader's freedom was at stake. That freedom he indeed achieved ere the morning's light. From that point on, accounts of him diverge. It is said the voice which troubled him he never heard again. Some say he helped to form our Saurian Union, though whether that is true, only he can say. Someday perhaps that reader's own star shall emerge, then it shall pierce the dark of night in all its brilliant glory. Until such time and ever after, all of us give thanks. So, it's time for some bullshit postulations. Bullshit postulation number 1. The cursed, the cursed talismans are the remains of Solium Myrrh. So, when Sandra speaks of the Sisters of the Arch, she says that they had been hired to kill Solium Myrrh, and that if you go to kill an emperor, you had best not fail. I always led that to mean that she and her sisters had failed, and that's why they ended up in the Beyonder Crystal. But she possesses the other legendary talismans of the remaining scribes, each of which being a vital component. For instance, Lou's bow, Ores's scale. Yeah. Good boy. I've got to say, the way that they put this song together, depending on who has been freed and who has not, is fantastic. But, as I was saying, the remaining talismans that Sandra gives you are all, like, pieces of the other scribes. And although she does give you Solium's horn, like, a demon can live without his horn. It's explicitly stated that when demons go back up, their horns fall off. Unlike the other artifacts, which seem a little bit like they would be more difficult to relinquish, for instance. Like, taking Gol Golathanian's bracer, like, that's the sort of man that dies, you know, he comes back home with his shield or on it, that sort of thing. Similarly, removing Haub's wing, like, that might kill the little creature. And isn't it? Oh, right, it's one of Jamur's fangs. So I guess he could have gone without that. But Triesta's plume, probably not. So anyway, just a bullshit postulation that Solium, that Emperor Mur survived the assassination attempt. Oh, I should also mention that in his first, the first time he is, what's the word I'm looking for? Mentioned in the Book of Rites, Golathanian. I'm sorry. His actual name is Golathanian, but I call him Golothian because it sounds cooler to me. So, Golothian says, "You may have heard of the thrice cursed name of Solium Mur. Similarly, there are 3 cursed talismans. Similarly, each of the talismans describes having come from a demon who had been thrice cursed and wandered the downside in a state of madness. And if he and his fellow exiles had, number 1, defeated the elder titans of the downside, 2, created the rites, and then 3, all of his fellow scribes had perished, that would put me in a state of madness and delirium, such that I would be sufficiently thrice cursed, once to exile, once to demondom, and once to having all of my goddamn friends die." And the other theory that I've got is it's a little out there. It's a little on the wild side. What if Almer is Orlek's son? Now, that might seem a little wild and out there, but the ages do kind of match up. If I recall correctly, Orlek has actually been out of commission for 10 years, which means he went into exile 8 years before 8 years before he reached his liberation right. So, if he had had a son topside, but been exiled before he knew of it, then number 1, he wouldn't know he had a kid. Number 2, everyone topside would know that Almer's dad had been exiled. Maybe Almer's mother dies in childbirth. Maybe she gives the child up because she doesn't want to be mother to a traitor's son. You know what I mean? But I can't speak to that. All we do know is that Almer adopts the boy. And then, so that would be 8 years in. No, that doesn't make any sense. Oh shit, that math doesn't work out. Because, oh wait, no, never mind. The math works out just fine. So, now, 8 years in, Orlek climbs the Sacred Mount, gets pushed the fuck off, breaks his goddamn legs. We'll come back to him never. So if Almer were to turn 13 around the time of his father's exile, number 1, his father would have to be very old. Then again, I imagine Curs age more quickly than nomads. I'm sorry, savages. So that would put, and so at the age of 13, that's kind of the perfect age for Almer to be like, fuck you, I'm not letting you arrest my dad. And that would put him at very near Jay's age, in the downside, because he's been exiled for 5 years. So that would make him 18 years old. Dun, dun, dun. And I'm going to do a thing where I show those 2 characters, because you only get to see Orlek's face as a nomad once, when Volfred originally brings up the tragedy of Orlek. And it's the resemblance is striking. And I do really like how in all after that all of Orlek's portraits are the new portrait. Even Volfred cannot divorce the monster he has become from the friend he used to be. But anyway, I'm gonna do a thing where I show him off right now. But before I do that, thank you very much for joining me. Sorry for talking over the credits song, but just like, I have all these thoughts in my head. And now you know that Oralek can be a nice guy too. See you in a bit. Seriously, look at these guys. They are so goddamn like the same. I mean, Oralek's skin is a little bit darker, but I mean, Almer's mother could have not been a person of color, and then you'd have lighter skin. And like the hair is very similar. Eyes are different color. Nose is kind of similar. Just like look at these guys. Just look at it's just a fact, all right? Omer is Oralek's orphan son. It's just a fact. Boom. QED.